Hey there, I'm Chase Sr. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. Thank you so much for watching the program and supporting everything that we do. Coming up, we're going to talk about one player who San Francisco could trade. Could the Niners trade for one star player? And what is the position of need for this Niners team as they go into Week 8 and beyond? First, let's pop up today's poll question. I want you to have a voice on this show, and I want you to let your voices be heard. Do the Niners need to make a move? Type M for move, N for no move. Let me know right now down in the comment section. As it pertains to San Francisco being a buyer at the NFL trade deadline, let's start there. The deadline coming up on November 5th. And ESPN took a look at all 32 teams across the National Football League, and they picked a player or a couple of players on all teams as far as players who could be on the move as we look ahead to the deadline. San Francisco right now, after that loss to Kansas City last week, it was ugly. I'm still annoyed about it. They sit at 3-4. So the big question for the Niners, and they're having these conversations internally, will they buy or will they sell? According to ESPN, their look at the Niners, San Francisco has a 44.5% chance of making the playoffs. That's why that Chiefs loss hit so hard. That's why this Cowboys game is so big. Right now, the Niners' projected first-round draft pick slot, 20th overall. It's not where you want to be. Ideally, you want to be a little bit later because that means that you're a winning football team. And ESPN's key position of need for the Niners, edge rusher. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know down in the comment section. Here's what ESPN had to say about the Niners either adding, subtracting, or sitting out. They think the Niners are going to add. This team just has to be aggressive. The Niners caught a break in that no one in their division has run away from them, and whenever Christian McCaffrey returns, that'll make them much better. But this is a team with the highest of goals, and it knows it is short in some key spots on the defense. That coming from ESPN NFL insider Dan Graziano. And I thought he made a pretty good point there, right? Because if the Seahawks lose this weekend and the Niners win, they go into the bye first place in the NFC West, despite them, if they do win, being 500 at 4-4 and them off to this really lackluster start. As it stands right now, going into this weekend's slate of games, the Seahawks 4-3, 0-1 inside the NFC West, but they had the most wins, so right now they are in first place. The Arizona Cardinals 3-4 this year, 2-0 inside the NFC West. The Niners 3-4, 1-2. Two bad losses against the Rams and Cardinals, and then 2 Thursdays ago, they beat the Seattle Seahawks. And then the Los Angeles Rams, 2-4, 1-1 overall, and of course 2-4 going into Thursday Night Football against the Minnesota Vikings. The NFC West in Week 8, Seahawks will host the Buffalo Bills. Very difficult game as Buffalo has been one of the top teams in the NFL from poll to poll up to this point. The Cardinals will travel to play the Miami Dolphins. Still no Tua Tagovailoa in that game. Niners hosting the Cowboys, and the Rams will play the Vikings again on Thursday Night Football at SoFi Stadium. As for the player that ESPN thinks could be on the move for the Niners, a la who they could trade, quarterback Joshua Dobbs, the banged-up Niners, dealing with so many injuries that can't afford to trade away any of their contributors on the roster. But if a quarterback-needy team came calling about Dobbs, they would at least have to listen. Having Dobbs as the third option behind Brock Purdy and Brandon Allen is a luxury that the Niners enjoy, but if they could turn him into an asset while giving him a chance to have a larger role elsewhere, it's something to consider. And that comes from Niners insider for ESPN, Nick Wagner. And we've talked about a potential Joshua Dobbs trade at some point. He's valued by other teams. He's very smart. He can pick up the playbook very quickly. He's a really good athlete who can make plays with his legs out of structure, a pretty solid arm, and we saw those qualities during the preseason. And right now, he is QB3. And if you can get value for a QB3, do you pull the trigger on that type of acquisition? Before we continue to move forward, be sure to hit that subscribe button, because when or if the Niners make a move, we'll talk about it. Even if the Niners don't make a move, we give you content and shows, long form, short form, every single day, year round, right here on the Niners Report. And as you can see here to my right, we are approaching 147,000 subscribers. We're currently 119 people away from that number. Anytime I'm in front of this camera, on the microphone, I'm going to give you Niners shows that are entertaining, insightful, informative, thought-provoking, where you can let your voices be heard, because fan is short for fanatic, and I love all of you who decide to rock out here with me. Coming up next here on the show, which player does ESPN have as a Niners trade target? That player might surprise you, so be sure to stay tuned for that. But first, let's give a shout out to our sponsor today, PrizePicks. Daily fantasy sports made easy. You choose more or less on a player's individual stat projections, either for a game or for a season, and you can win some big-time money. It's daily fantasy sports made easy. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS, and when you use the code CLNS, you get $50 when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. Ladies and gentlemen, it is guaranteed. Our selections that we like for some Sunday night football action: Brock Purdy, more than 241.5 passing yards. George Kittle, more than a half rushing or receiving touchdown. Dak Prescott, more than a half pick. It's as easy as that. So run your game with PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less, pick PrizePicks. More than 10 million active members, billions of dollars in awarded winnings handed out. That's why PrizePicks is the absolute best. Which player should or could the San Francisco 49ers target? ESPN listing Rams wide receiver and All-Pro Cooper Kupp as potentially the apple of the Niners' eye. And here was ESPN's reasoning for that, and I know a lot of you are going to be surprised by it. Rams wide receiver Cooper Kupp. The plethora of playmakers the 49ers appear to have in August is suddenly thin. Brandon Ayuk is out for the season, torn ACL, MCL. McCaffrey is still out, and Deebo Samuel Sr. is dealing with a form of pneumonia. Kupp, who is expected to return soon from an ankle injury, has managed 2.0 yards per route run since the start of 2023, has had long success under Sean McVay, so one would think that Kyle Shanahan could get the most out of him too. If the Rams are up for dealing Kupp, San Francisco should be first as far as the places that they look. It's better to take draft capital from your rival than anyone else. That coming from ESPN NFL writer Seth Walder. My immediate thoughts here when thinking about this, it would be an NFC West trade. Interdivision trades are, of course, very rare. There's been a lot of chatter this week that the Rams are shopping Cooper Kupp, regardless of what happens on Thursday Night Football, between the Rams and the Vikings. If they trade Kupp, I think they fully sell. There was also some chatter this week that the Rams could trade Matthew Stafford to the Minnesota Vikings and swap quarterbacks, where Sam Darnold would go to the Rams. That would signal a reset and rebuild for Sean McVay. For Kupp, he's elite, but he's been injured a lot. There's also a question for San Francisco. Do you make a move at wide receiver in the wake of that Brandon Ayuk injury, or do you simply let Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing play because they do have a lot of potential? Greg Cosell, NFL analyst who breaks down tape as good as anybody out there, he looked at the tape. He was on the radio in San Francisco, I believe KNBR or 95.7. I've been on both radio networks, so I forget which one exactly it was. And he said, I looked at the tape. Pearsall had some juice. And so I'm excited to see what Pearsall can do against the Dallas Cowboys. Going back to point number 3, the injuries. Kupp's games played by year. In the last 3 years, he really has been banged up a lot, and this is after what was just an unbelievable 2021 season in which he was a Triple Crown winner. More on that here coming up. In 2022, though, only played 9 games. In 2023, 12, and this year, 2. The Vikings game will be his 3rd, and he is going to play in that football game. Now, when healthy, Cooper Kupp, one of the top wide receivers in the NFL. Slippery, good footwork, great route runner, can use his body with really good body control to fake out DBs, to create space. He can beat man, he can beat zone, and that 2021 season targeted 191 times during that Super Bowl year. 145 catches for nearly 2,000 yards and 16 touchdowns. It's one of the best wide receiver seasons that you'll ever see. But since that usage rate was as high as James Harden's with the Houston Rockets in his prime. To use a basketball reference, the production in games played, it's been a little bit worrisome. But this is what the player is capable of doing. Keep in mind, he is 31 years old. That 2021, outright special. Super Bowl champion, MVP, and Offensive Player of the Year. So he won a Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl MVP, and was named the Offensive Player of the Year that year. He was a Triple Crown winner in the sense that he led the NFL in receptions, in yards, and in touchdowns. And of course, when you do that, you're a shoo-in to be an All-Pro. And Cooper Kupp was an All-Pro during that 2021 campaign. He was just money all year for quarterback Matthew Stafford. Now, as we get to the latter portion of this conversation, a Cooper Kupp trade for the San Francisco 49ers as we approach the deadline would be fascinating. ESPN listing Kupp as one of the top targets who San Francisco could go after. And why I'd be intrigued, given his route running and his short area quickness, he can beat man coverage. He can gain separation. What have the Niners wide receivers struggled to do this year? Get separation and beat man. Brock Purdy, among all players who have thrown a pass this year, 68th in receiver target separation. And that's made his job really hard, and that's a big reason why Purdy has struggled against man. It's also because Kyle Shanahan has no answers against that style of defense. Purdy's completion rate against man, 41.1%, 33rd in the NFL. Passer rating, 59.3%, 32nd in the NFL. His completion rate against zone, 73.7%. That's 6th. And he has the highest passer rating against zone at 130.7. Cooper Kupp, it cost a lot as far as his salary. You might have to give up a second-round pick, but he could help out this Niners offense with areas that they've struggled in, and that's gaining separation and having success against man. So would you trade Cooper Kupp and give up a second-round pick? T for trade, P for pass. Sound off with what you think down in the comment section. And as always, thank you so much for rocking with us here on the San Francisco 49ers Report.